when she bought the house was to bring Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel to life. So she actually added that in 1922. And so that is supposed to replicate a shop that was in the novel that a character sold little trinkets out of, and it kind of plays a role in the story. So another important point I should stress about this area is we are in the original 1668 part of the house. We're going to see in a bit how the house has changed over time. It has not stayed the same at all, but we are in the oldest part right now.
Would they have eaten in here too, or just cooked?
No, so we're actually going to see where they ate in the next room. So if you want to take a look at the scent shop before we leave, feel free to circle around there. And then whoever would like to lead the way, please wait for me in the next room.
I'm gonna take a picture.
I'm playing with the whole thing.
Okay.
I'll go to YouTube.
Yeah, you a picture.
So cool.
We happened to go to the Victoria House. Right, and I just said it was not like the Victoria. Very fancy.
All right, so I'm going to turn this way. So we are in the dining room. Yes, this is where they would have actually eaten their meals. Now, I want to start off this room with a question. Can anyone tell me what was going on around the year of 1776? Very important year in American history. Yes. Anyone? Yes. Declaration of Independence. So, right on the tail end of that is when Captain Samuel Ingersoll gets the house. And so this is really important because after independence, Salem merchants decide, okay, we're going to go wherever we want to in the world. We're not restricted by the British anymore in terms of our trade. So if you look at those pictures, those are ports in China where we do know for a fact that Salem merchants went to on their voyages. On the left is a port in Canton, and on the right is a port in Macau. They would have brought back things like the blue and white Canton ware on the table here. These pieces are not original to the house, but they do date back to the 1800s. So they would have been bringing back stuff exactly like that. Now I mentioned Susanna Ingersoll, who's over in that portrait to my left. She is Captain Samuel Ingersoll's daughter, and she inherited the house from him. He died of yellow fever at sea. And so she actually never marries because she wants to keep all of her possessions under her name. And as a woman, if you got married back then, all of your stuff would go in your husband's name. So she was actually a real estate mogul at the time and made quite a good living for herself. So definitely a pretty rare woman for the 1800s. Now, she was also Nathaniel Hawthorne's cousin, and they were actually very good friends. He would come over, spend a lot of time here, and she would tell him stories about the house, and that's what inspired him to write his great novel about this house, which we are going to dig into more, but it has to do with curses and mysterious things happening. So if you haven't read it, it's pretty exciting. Now, the final part of this room is that I want to point out to you is this. Can anyone tell me what this is? It looks like it's just a closet for storing wood for the fireplace.
What is it?
Secret way. So
But if we
cool.
open up the back, we reveal a secret staircase that is hidden in the chimney. Now, we are going to go up this staircase. Whoever's feeling the most courageous, please lead the way. And just wait for me in the room at the top.
Go.
My mom, I didn't even hesitate. I just went. These stairs are. Why did the door close on time?
Open the door.
Why did it decide to go?
I'll sit down.
Alright, we're out. We don't have to sing this song anymore.
Okay, I'm going the other way next time.
What other way?
I'm recording the whole time. Mama, I'm recording the whole thing.
Okay, guys.
I'm gonna upload it to YouTube.
There was another way.
I'm gonna store it in the cloud and I'm gonna delete it. Storage. I'm gonna send it to you. I don't know. I'm gonna upload it to YouTube.
I mean, you lost some calories from simply walking up there.
That's kind of fun.
Look at the
It was
window.
crazy. How big the room is relative to the thing. Giống như cái phòng trúng chặt nữa hả?
Đâu lên ngồi đây nhìn nè, phòng này cũng bự ha. You can see, bro. You can see the. See what? Oh my leg. Oh.
What do you mean?
Maybe a bedroom.
Everyone? Okay, wait. It's still on.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't leave us in here. Yeah. Let's get a picture down the staircase. Is that okay?
Of course. So everyone made it up okay?
Yeah?
Awesome.
I was worried my father would kind of, slow the process.
No, we all made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get some quick photos and then we'll kind of dive into this room.
Really, why don't you guys get up and let some older people sit down? No, up. All right. Nick, please. They're young as it. I was gonna sit too. Go sit. I think they're okay. They'll survive. They'll make it. They need
Things
to.
like these are the reason we don't sit next to you at
No,
dinner.
I'm not.
Because I need to do
I'm
stuff?
quite young.
Like get up and, it's like the.
Say hi to the camera.
You gotta let the pregnant people.
Say hi.
So,
And the people with needs.
the room we are in now, this is known as the attic garret right now. So the secret staircase that we just came up, first of all, that was put in by Caroline Everton, again to bring Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel to life. She actually put the staircase in because the owner before her had told her he found a set of stairs in the chimney. And then they did renovations and got rid of it, and so she thought, well, I'm just going to put it right back, and we will pretend it was in the novel. So it wasn't actually in the novel, but there is a character named Clifford who moves about the house mysteriously, and in one part he gets down to the dining room, and no one really knows how he got there. So she decided, we're going to put that in, and that explains how Clifford even gets around the house. So if you look up to those two framed pieces there, Gables has had some appearances in pop culture. The one on the left is pretty cool. It's a Wonder Woman comic from the 1940s, in which Wonder Woman actually does visit the literal house of the Seven Gables, and she is using the secret staircase in that panel. And then, of course, there's a Hollywood movie, which I have not seen, but I'm told it's not very accurate. So if you want the real story, I recommend reading the book. But without further Fair due. Has anyone already figured out how we're gonna get out of this room?
There's a door over there.
Yes, back here. I think someone got in. So right, so.
Oh, no. Oh, no, another one. Oh, no, another one. Oh, boy.
Đi lên một cái đường kia là đi ra cái đường này. Chứ không phải là đi bằng cái đường kia nữa. Một cái nhà cái đó cái cò hay nó là một lực như là có lên đấy chứ lậu. Cái nóc nhà nè. Nóc nhà. Nóc nhà xưa rồi. Đây là năm rồi. Hai quá sao hai. Đi đâu rồi?
Đi xuống bên này chế.
Dạ. Dạ.
I mean,
This is still here, unlockable, and
it's been 300 years.
do you think like my couch is gonna last another 300 years?
Yeah,
Probably not.
it could.
It could.
Not if you, anybody.
There's gonna be so much storage on my phone.
That's alright.
I'm gonna plan on recording the whole thing.
Okay, and then just post it and
Delete it?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have made it
Is that a good idea?
to the attic now. We are actually standing in one of the oldest spaces in terms of the physical materials that are around us. These beams are all original from the 1600s, as well as the wall back there.
They said
the
touch them.
last
Oh.
two floorboards I know for a fact are original.
Oops.
You can see the darker color back there. Now,
Did it feel old?
I mentioned the architectural things that are going on with this house. Before we dive into that, can anyone tell me what a gable actually is? Yeah.
Probably.
What do you think? The kid's answering.
It's the end of your ridge beam.
Yep, so it's the pointy part that sticks out of the roof. So we're actually standing in a gable right now. This is a perfect visual. And then from the outside, it's going to look like this, for example. So if we count the gables on this model, we can find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's one little extra one here. That is actually a dormer because it does not come up and meet with the top of the roof. Now, the house looked a lot different back when John Turner I built it in 1668. So, this was the house originally. It was actually a very impressive house for its time during this early period, the first period architecture. Now, I encourage you to look up some examples of houses from that time because it'll show you perspective as to how this house was a lot bigger than the other ones. Now, in the 1670s, he added this wing onto the house, and in 1677, he added the southern wing onto it, and the house is now at its full glory, 7 gables on it. That's not the end of the story, though, because when Captain Ingersoll comes in the 1780s and gets the house, architectural style is totally different now. We're moving into the Federalist style, which is more simplistic and based on symmetry. And so these gables and this winding mansion is totally out of date. So what he did was he took this wing off and he removed these 3 gables. So this model is what the house looked like when Captain Ingersoll had it. Ironically, it's also what the house looked like when Nathaniel Hawthorne was in it. So he never saw the house with 7 gables on it. The reason he was inspired to write that is because Susanna had grown up in the house as a young child, and she remembered going around in the attic playing and whatever. And she told him stories about it, and he was really inspired to write something mysterious. He was also inspired by his own family a bit, which we'll talk about in the next room. Now, when Caroline Emerton got the house in the 1900s, she put the gables back on, she put this wing back on, she So we're gonna put it back to 7 gables that it had and bring tours through the house.
They had like sketches to know the original one, because obviously they're not photography, but like, did they have sketches to know the original?
Yeah.
This rope is 300 years
Yeah,
old.
she brought in an architect who actually
It's
specialized in
newer.
this type of restoration work, and they did repair it to the specifications it had. Yeah.
Yeah, in 1759, when they're trying to do with one of the estates, somebody drew out a little sketch of like the outline of
And then where are we now? Like,
Right now, we're actually in this part of the house. And then, yeah, we're going to be moving into this part for the last part of the tour. So the whole time we've been in the original 1600s part of the house. Yeah, so if everyone's good, we can head on down there. I'm going to lead the way, folks. Just wait a second. And before you, yeah, of course.
Is there more secret doors?
Not from here on out in the tour.
I thought it was a third one.
I was worried you'd be
there's a full
disappointed.
staircase over there that goes up to the roof.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's not usable anymore.
I'm
Oh,
gonna take you
oh, no.
guys on the roof.
Let's see.
Yeah, just watch it. The steps are really big, the first couple of them are
okay.
Ow.
watch your head down.
Huh? What happened? You guys too?
Hit my head.
I did too. Use that food real quick.
That's right.
How was it not expired? How was it not expired?
It's fake.
Is that gun real?
You Mill Pond.
Wow.
1780.
Yeah, so the Y was
The guns.
TH, so it was actually the word the, but that's how they would write it. They use a different letter. Exactly, so they wrote one letter, it's like two. I was writing everything out. I was just gonna say, the way that.
Yeah, when you read the old,
Hopefully everybody follows the same thing though.
They don't have pen, they use that.
So, we are now in the accounting room. Today, we might know this better as a home office, but back then they called it the accounting room. So, the Turners, as you know from the tour so far, they were merchants. They had their own fleet of ships. They actually had their own little wharf right out here. Their own ships would leave straight from this little dock. So here's where they would make plans for their trips. They would look over their profits, finances, they would plan the next trip, hire a crew, provision things, all that kind of stuff. Now, unfortunately, it was not all just innocent business because you can see these weapons that are conspicuously displayed. These are original guns from the era. But John Turner II was a colonel in the Massachusetts militia during the 1700s. And he was, unfortunately, part of the darker history of our country. They did have a government-sponsored war, genocide against the indigenous people. And so part of his mission was to go out and kill as many of them as possible. And he did actually display some of the scalps of the indigenous people in this room. We know that for a fact. So, as a kind of trophy. So, just to kind of acknowledge that unfortunate darker side. But if let's jump out of that for a minute and go back to the literature. So, Nathaniel Hawthorne, when he wrote his novel, this is an important room in the book. So I am going to go over the kind of intro to the book. I'm not going to do any spoilers if you still want to read it. So the book kind of starts out in Salem, and there's this man who has this very desirable land in Salem. And Colonel Pynchon decides he wants that land really badly, but the owner refuses to sell. So his solution is, let's accuse him of witchcraft, get him convicted. So the owner of the land is about to be hanged, and he shouts at Pynchon, God will give you blood to drink. So Pynchon, of course, ignores this, says go ahead, hang him. And later on, Pynchon invites all of his guests over to this great new house that he's built on this property. And they're having this party, they're downstairs, they're kind of wondering, like, where is he? Why is he not showing up to entertain us? He should be around. So someone goes to check on him in the office, and they find him in the chair, perhaps that one right there, blood dripping down his face, and he's dead. And so this starts a curse in the Pynchon family, which Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote Lauren's novel. And if you want to find out more, we have the novel in the museum store. So I would recommend getting that. I mean,
Yeah. Don't you have all of them?
So yeah, we can start moving. We're still in the original part.
Yeah, good.
I'll have 20. I've been recording for 21 minutes.
Oh, wow, that's where we were.
Cool. I'm 90. Pictures.
Oh, wow.
How did they get the pictures back then?
They had cameras.
In 600? How did they not? That good?
That's probably a recreation. Or redone. These are original ones. Somebody else.
Why is their camera better than mine?
I don't know. I mean, it's not colored. There's that.
It's in like,
So we are now in what was originally the master bedroom in the house. Now, the way it's displayed right now is more of what it would look like during the 1950s, as you can guess. You got rotary phone, radio over there. The settlement house from Caroline Emerton, who's in that picture back there above the fireplace. When she had this house, she was leading tours through it, and she also had her settlement work going on. So she was doing classes with children and having different activities. And so she had social workers living in the house, and this is where they would have slept. So the room was divided down the middle into 2 bedrooms, and this kind of gives you a good image of like what one of the bedrooms looked like back then. These pictures on the wall are pretty cool because they do document that history pretty well. If you see those children in the 2 pictures on the left, they were workers in shoe factories. There's a big shoe industry in the area. And so you can imagine they were not getting good wages. They had to work really long hours. They had a terrible quality of life, and Caroline Emerton was giving them a place they could gather and at least get some kind of education. So if you look in the next picture, I think that's a good example of, that's actually Emerton herself talking to some children over a table. And they had different things going on. So if you fast forward to the present day, nice color photograph right there. That is, we are actually continuing Emerton's mission. So we do help immigrants in the local community. We offer them ESL courses and citizenship prep courses so they can take the test. And that's a ceremony of them being sworn in as U.S. citizens. We have one of those every year.
That's so cool.
Would that happen to be the shoe factory?
Yes.
Yeah, it's right across the harbor. And so now it's like an office park. But,
Yeah. Oh, that's Shetland Park.
yeah, so it used to be the nomination.
24 minutes.
Yep.
And
So
these are original pictures from back then.
yes, these are pictures from.
Yeah, the pictures themselves we printed out, but they
But
were,
they are,
yeah.
the original.
Before we move on, does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay, yeah, feel free to just ask away if something occurs to you. So just follow me, guys. We're gonna go this way.
sit down. Yes.
Thank you, Beth. They can stand.
Anyway.
All right, feel free to fill on in into the room. I'm gonna kind of project from over here so you guys can see everything. So I mentioned I would warn you. Now is the time that we have gone into the southern addition to the house.
So it got bigger all of a sudden.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So.
And that's a very good point about this room because this part of the reason the ceilings are so high, and you think about the kitchen, it's because now at this point in the house's history, they're trying to show that they've made lots of wealth. And they can afford to heat a room like this in New England in the winter. They have all the resources they need. And so you look around this room, you see wealth pretty much everywhere. The important thing to note about that is that this wealth was built on the backs of enslaved people who were staying in the house. And so there would have been 2 to 3 slaves at any given time, as far as we know, in the house. If you look back there's a bedroll on the floor. And so think about the Turners and the people who would have been sleeping in that bed over there. And then if you were an enslaved person, you would have been sleeping on that, on the floor, possibly in the corner of the room, possibly out in the hallway, so you can attend to the master's needs in every whim. And so I think that's important to remember because you have these two cool opposites going on. We do know the names of the 5 slaves who have been documented to live here. So Titus, Lewis, Jane, Phyllis, and Rebecca. We don't know all that much about them as individuals just because it's tough to find things in the historical record other than the fact that they were here and they were treated as property. Titus was here he was here for about 60 years, if you can imagine that, so for most of his life. So yeah, unfortunately, and if you want to look over at that real quick, that is actually it's not a will, a probate, yes. So that lists 3 of the enslaved people, and you can see they're grouped together with other things like a horse and other objects. Yeah. So the other thing I want to point into in this room, if you're into the architecture, is that beam back there, or that post, that was from the original 1677. So when this was first added on, this room would have had all those exposed beams and posts everywhere, and later on the paneling was added to make it more in keeping with the times. Does anyone have any questions while we're in this room? Cool. All right, without further ado, we can start heading downstairs. Just watch your stuff. Cool. Yeah, just watch the lip on that doorway.
It's so like festive in here.
Looks like some kind of party room. Like there's games over there, and they've got music.
Does that piano work? Does that piano worth like millions?
This is probably like an entertaining room where they would have.
Isn't that piano worth like isn't that piano worth millions?
Yeah.
If they were to sell it. Hasn't that piano been there for like 400 years? It's so well built.
Violin and a dulcimer and a flute.
What's a dulcimer?
The guitar-looking thing. Tiny little baby guitar.
So, if your brain is getting full at this point, don't worry, this is the last room of the house we're going to go to today. This is the parlor, so this would have been the main entertaining space throughout the time of the Turners and the Ingersolls. If you can imagine them having guests in here, actually, excuse me, I'm just gonna go back here. They'd be having music on, they'd be playing games, and they,
so this is the entertainment room.
they have this wonderful drink cabinet. So we would have kept the drinks and dishware in here. This is the original paint in this cabinet. It was a Prussian blue color. It's just been faded over time. So feel free to get pictures. Excuse me. I do just want to point out Nathaniel Hawthorne over there above the piano. That's a picture of him when he was young. And if you can see that portrait on the far left corner, that's Sophia Peabody, Nathaniel Hawthorne's wife. When they were young and they fell in love, this is about what they would have looked like back then. And the picture to the far wall is known as The Flight into Egypt. That is a painting that Sophia Peabody made herself. She was a great artist, and so I like to just point out that Nathaniel Hawthorne and Sophia Peabody were part of building the great tradition of American art and literature when we were still a pretty recent country and we didn't really have much of it compared to what was in Europe. So they were a big part of that. Does anyone have questions before we leave?
I'm gonna give you a hard one.